What's up, guys? Good afternoon and welcome to Roma Theory. This is your Bologna versus Roma match preview. We did 3 match previews of this same exact game this season. I've had enough of it. I don't want to play Bologna anymore for the next 10 years. They're like our nightmare this season. But yeah, we're going to Bologna in our... How many games are missing? I think 5, including this one, right? So we're approaching the finish line and... yeah, we've got, what? We need to try and consolidate the Europa League position, aim for that Champions League spot, even though Juventus have it and Juventus won't lose it. A lot of things to say today. Get your snacks, get your drinks, get your beers. It's Friday. But we've got a lot of things to say today on Gasperini's press conference, on the official statement of Ranieri leaving, which is very important to analyze because this is not Ranieri stepping down. This is Ranieri getting sacked. And these are 2 very different things, which I think explain very different things moving forward. And then, yeah, a lot of things to go through today. So without further ado, let's get started or we're going to be here all night. Hit the like, subscribe, do all of that good stuff down below. If we can get 100 likes, I know it's been a bad period, right? But... it's almost summer, and you know summer is approaching when my live streams are in the middle of a golden hour, and it should bring positivity. So 100 likes would be great. We're playing tomorrow at 6 p.m. I won't do a match reaction tomorrow because I have a birthday, but I'll do it on Sunday. But yeah, let's get the non-football related stuff out of the way, and then we will focus on the game. DYBALA could be back. Could he be starting? All of these answers were answered by Gasperini in the press conference. But I would like to start off with Ranieri. Now, the reason I say this, and the reason I speak about this, Ranieri's gone, so technically there's no need to speak about this. But I think we need to make something very clear. Now, yesterday evening, from what we got told, Ranieri resigned. From what Ranieri said today and from the official statement that Roma released, Ranieri didn't resign. Ranieri got sacked. And I think these 2 things are very different. Very, very different. Because Ranieri resigning means, look, Claudio, we wanted to try and keep you, but if you think that your role is a role that won't influence much anymore, if you think that the relationship with the manager can't get reconciled, then fine, we'll accept you stepping down. And this is very different to, Claudio, I'm sorry, but what you said before the Pisa game, we don't tolerate, and we've decided to sack you because we want to back the manager. And from the official statement and what Ranieri said, because Ranieri spoke, the second option is what happened. Because Ranieri released an interview a few hours ago after the news and after the official statement that Roma released, saying that the decision of him leaving was a unilateral decision coming from the club. That effectively means the club decided to sack me. So I think that you need to clear this version, and I'll tell you why we need to clear this version, because it says a lot about the future. It says that the owners, first of all, we're not behind what Ranieri said pre-Pisa game. And that's, for the manager, is important to get that faith and to get that confidence. Because if the owners didn't sack Ranieri and the owners didn't say anything about Ranieri, what Ranieri said before the Pisa game, it was kind of like going, we kind of agree with him. But him getting sacked shows and proves to you that what Ranieri said was not controlled by the owners, was not pre-decided with the owners. That was just an emotional instinct that came out of him. I've created my own theory as to what happened. I watched Fabio Carissa's video like 30 minutes before going live. So I'm gonna take a few bits from that video because I think that guy's so smart. I always quote him because I think Carissa is one of the few smart people that work in the football industry. And what he says is that basically Ranieri, being a very humane, genuine person who cares about relationships and cares about the people he has a relationship with didn't tolerate the fact and the continuous attacks from the manager, not directly to him, because Gasperini never attacked Ranieri, but to his people. And his people, or Massara, who is a very strict ally of Claudio Ranieri, and we will see Massara resign now that Ranieri left, and his medical team. Because remember, the biggest thing that made Gasperini infuriate is the fact that the medical team was the medical team that Ranieri brought last year, and that they didn't change him. They didn't change the medical team. And so as a result of all of these injuries, Gasperini used the medical team as kind of a way to go, these guys aren't competent, and you brought these guys. So these were the two kind of, Ranieri felt attacked by the fact that his people were attacked. And so before the Pisa game, he attacked Gasperini as a sign of defense. That shows that he's a very genuine person who cares about one-on-one relationships. I think, however, in these last few weeks, he realized that he made a mistake. I don't think he would have resigned if the club didn't force him out. They would have probably redimensioned, they would have probably given a different dimension to his role, but I'm not sure Ranieri would have resigned now that we're getting the news that he was sacked and not resigned. So yeah, I mean, just before getting onto the press conference and speaking about the manager, I just want to read the official statement. AS Roma announces that its relationship with Claudio Ranieri has ended. The club wishes to thank Claudio for his significant contribution to Roma. He led the team through a very difficult time, and we will always be grateful for his efforts. Looking to the future, our direction is clear. The club is solid with strong leadership. I have very, very big doubt on that. And a clear vision. I have a very, very big doubt on that. The big sentence is AS Roma will always come first. We have full confidence in the path that lies ahead under Gianpiero Gasperini, with the shared goal of growing, improving and achieving results worthy of our history. What emerges from this is great courage from this ownership. Now again, I don't partially agree with everything that they said, because I don't agree with the fact that there is a solid leadership and a strong leadership at the club. I completely disagree. And I'm also quite unsure about the clear vision. Again, the fact that they chose to stick with the manager, for me, is good. I've said it many times. I'm with the manager. I love Ranieri. I love that man. I respect that man. I respect that the human, the human and the human in the footballing world. I respect his loyalty. I love his loyalty, his legacy. It will never be destroyed. But he made a mistake, and this mistake went against the benefits of the club. So I have always been on the side of the manager, and not on the side of Ranieri, despite Ranieri being Ranieri. I think a lot of courage from the board, because going against Ranieri isn't easy. It was a very complicated diplomatic decision to make, because if the scenario was really you got to choose one between the two, it's a scenario that whatever decision you make will inevitably make the fan base mad. Because if you kicked the manager out, you would have completely lost the fans, because you can't restart from scratch. But, kicking Ranieri out, in my opinion, right now, in this situation, is the correct move. Again, we can look at this in 3 years' time, and you can all laugh at me for saying that we chose Gasperini instead of the manager. As of today, sticking with this manager is the solution. This is my opinion. But sacking Ranieri will inevitably have led to a part of the fan base being mad because of the legacy he built. So it was a very complicated diplomatic decision to solve. They've been brave. They were strict, direct. Ranieri, we love you, but you're out. You made a mistake that went against our favors and against our interests, and against the long-term interests of this club. We stick with the manager. And I think and on this I agree. Now on the manager, because I think Gasperini said a lot of interesting things today in the press conference. He didn't necessarily say much about Ranieri. He didn't. He said more on Massara, I think. I think Massara's going to leave. We all know this. But Gasperini publicly said that him and Massara have always had different technical ideas, which in my opinion is like shouting for him to leave. We all know what Gasperini wants. It's very evident what Gasperini wants. I think you need to try and do this, because I think if you do this, it's how this manager succeeds. But I'm not that sure that we're gonna 100% do it, that the owners are going to allow this 100%. What Gasperini wants is full powers. Not full powers, like using the word full powers always reminds me of like studying dictators in a history class. Not in that sense, but Gasperini wants the freedom to choose two things: players that are signed and medical team that he wants to work with. And I think these are two things that if you give this manager, I honestly think he will succeed. Because look, I think ever since he signed for us, the manager, I can see a confidence in him of knowing what to do. Again, this can prove to be wrong in 3 years' time, and we'll win nothing with him. But we will never know if we don't try. I've always seen confidence in this manager, in a sense that he knows what to do. Like, he knows what to try and do. But the problem is that in order for this to happen, you need to give him full powers. Like, Gasperini sees a situation where if you give him paper and pen, and if you give him control, he has an idea of where to bring this club. And that's, in my opinion, after all of this and all this tantrum that has been created, what the manager is asking. What was I going to say? I was going to say one last thing connected to this. I forgot, but it's going to come back. Yeah, I know what I wanted to say. This implies something important. That he has no alibis left. You know, this season was always a construction season. Nobody at the start of the season saw us in the Champions League. We only got the Champions League illusion because we were around it and we were first in the league table for like a month, something like that. So we all got eluded. And I'll never be tired of saying this, because the reason we're pissed is exactly because of that. But in his defense, this season he had a lot of alibis because he didn't get backed in the transfer market, because the medical team apparently was Ranieri's and wasn't his. So there were a lot of things that play in his defense. Now that you sacked Ranieri, Massara will probably leave, the medical team will be different, and now that you're going to give him more freedom of choice in the transfer market, next season there's no more alibis. Like, next season, you need to get Champions League football. You need to get Champions League football next season. If you don't get it next season, then I agree. We need to change manager again. I'm sorry, but we need Champions League football. So as much as this season, for me, it's not his fault. Again, you won't change my mind. He's the last to be blamed. Next season, after all of this, he's got no more alibi. So in a sense, he has no more. He's got no more bonuses left the next season. Like, next season is where you really test him. Next season is where you really look at it and go, is he the right one to lead the project with this football club? I think I said everything. Let's focus on the game. Not much to say on a football point of view. Really not. I can see some confidence back in the manager, which will be reflected in his decisions and probably in the players as well after all of this. But yeah, like I'm so exhausted of speaking about football that I don't even know who's fit or who's unfit or who's back both on our side and their side. All I can say is that Bologna eliminated us from the Europa League a few weeks ago. Now they've got nothing else to ask from this season. They're not going to get Europe. They're out of the Europa League and they're out of the Coppa Italia. So you will have more motivation than them. But I think the motivation is now less from above and more from behind, because you're not gonna catch Juventus. In fact, I'll give you my prediction. I think Juventus win at San Siro in Milan. So I think now it's more about trying to avoid the teams behind you chase you, and you need to try and consolidate that fifth spot, because if you get sixth and Lazio in the Europa League, you're in the Conference League. And it's not the fact that you're not in the Europa League that pisses me, because I can deal without being in Europe one season, but it's the fact that you'll end up in the Conference League. That's the thing. So, yeah, you need to try and get fifth. You need to try and get fifth because, ironically, I'd rather you get fifth or seventh. I don't want you to get sixth. Well, no, actually, no, because then if Inter win the Coppa Italia, if you get seventh, you're in the... If Lazio win the Coppa Italia, you need fifth or seventh. If Inter win it, you need fifth or sixth. It's as simple as that. So, if Lazio win the Coppa Italia, then you need to auto-suicide and get seventh, which means no Conference League. Otherwise, you need to try and get fifth or sixth if Inter win it. Yeah, look, Bologna, who do they have? I don't know who's fit in their team. I could not care less. Like, I genuinely couldn't care less. Orsolini, Castro, we know them well. We spoke about them. Go and watch the Europa League match previews. There you have it. About us, a few players are back. DYBALA's back, but he won't be ready to start. Gasperini said it in a press conference. Wesley's back in the list of, in the squad list. Kone, I'm not sure if he's back. But yeah, we're getting a few players back. We'll see if they're durable enough to end the season. What games do we have left? Just to see what games we have left. Bologna, Fiorentina, Parma, Lazio, Verona. I see a draw tomorrow. I see a draw tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know why, but something... I see a 0-0 tomorrow. I hate when I have these feelings because they're normally true. I don't know why, but I see a very boring game tomorrow between two teams which, yeah, of course, we've got more motivation than them. Nobody can hide that. But two teams that have already went to war with each other, kind of like, I can't deal with you anymore. Let's just 0-0. I see a 0-0 or a 1-1. Okay, let me read a few comments. Gasperini would have brought in garbage, Sancho, and that TikTok or midfielder if he had full powers. Well, having full powers doesn't imply that you'll get every signing right. But, you know, it's signings that... I truly believe I've said this when we signed him. The reason he succeeded at Atalanta was because of this. Now, having full powers in choosing every player doesn't mean that you can't make mistakes. You know, in the Sancho situation, I see the Lookman situation, a dead player that a manager wants to try and revitalize. With Lookman, it worked out. With Sancho, it might have not worked out. So, again, I think the key ingredient of this success that he had in Bergamo is the freedom that he had to pick. So, you know, people that are now against Gasperini pull up the Sancho to play against him. I'm in favor of the manager, and I pull up Malin. So where do we agree? You know, yes, okay, he wanted Sancho, he didn't get Sancho, but he also is the reason he brought Malin. So I I really do not understand this unnecessary hate that this manager is getting. I really do not understand it. And I'm not saying that you're hating on Gasperini, but it's forcing details just because you don't like the person that ultimately plays against the interests of this football club. We should start Rensch, Lanawi in place of Celik and Cristante. Not UCL, even if we win all 5 games hypothetically. There is no need to speak about Champions League football if it no longer depends on you. Like, we can make these arguments if the ball was in your hands. If the ball was in your hands, if you were fourth, if you win all games, you're in it. We're no longer in that position. Like, we can win all 5 games, but so can Juve. So we're not going to get it because they're 5 points ahead of us. Like, for me, there's no more need to speak about Champions League football because Juventus are not going to drop out of that 4th spot. I'll read you Juventus's calendar. And mind you that when reading this calendar, I think as of now, they're the most on-form team in the league. So bear that in mind. And I think their decision of giving and announcing Spalletti's extension of contract mid-season, like now, 2 weeks ago, has played a massive confidence boost on the squad. And I'll say another thing. Next season, they will challenge for the league title. They're playing Milan away. I see them not losing that game for sure, but I definitely can see them win. Milan are on the floor. They're playing Verona at home in 2 weeks. They're playing Lecce away in 3 weeks. Fiorentina at home and Torino away in the last game week. They're playing a lot of their games against teams which have literally nothing more to ask from the league. Because Milan, yeah, okay, fine. It's who gets third, who gets second, who gets third. Verona already down. Fiorentina have got nothing more to ask. Torino have got nothing more to ask. So, you know, yes, we can calculate 5 wins gives us 15 points. But if Juve don't drop points, you can win all games, but you're not gonna get it either way. So. What does 5th give us? No money boost and neither a squad which can fight 2 fronts again. Literally going to suicide cycle again. Anyways, I will... I'll catch you... No, not tomorrow. I can't tomorrow. On Sunday, for the match reaction, I'm predicting a draw for tomorrow's game. I'll speak to you soon. Hit the like, subscribe. Peace.